best candidate in a three-way race in King County, so happy with that. And I've already announced I'm running next year for Burien City Council, position 4. I ran last year for Burien City Council. I got 17% in a 5-way race. So, you know, I'm well known in my community. It's a nonpartisan race. I hope there will be 5 people in the race this time. But I'm looking forward to just continuing to put libertarian ideas out there.
And with that, I don't, did we have any more orders of business? Or
Well, I wanted to call Anthony up for a moment. He is running a 2-year race.
Yes.
3-year race, excuse me, because people times money times time.
And here he is.
I'll be brief. I didn't know I was
Thank you
here.
for joining us, Anthony.
Hey, you always
This is
have to be
awesome.
ready.
Yeah, always be ready, right? Thank you to all the candidates that ran. Paper ballot or serious candidates, I appreciate all of it. Paper ballots specifically give candidates like myself who are putting everything online, give us a lot of data that we can use. So don't undersell your 5%, your 7%, what 17. It doesn't matter. You're out there doing something you're passionate about, and you're sharing your love for liberty with others. That helps the next generation, and it helps other candidates as well. So thank you. I'm running for Washington State Insurance Commissioner in 2020. I have a background in insurance. Insurance is also what first turned me politically aware to basically being unhappy with government force. So this is a topic that I'm extremely passionate about. I chose this race for a couple of reasons. It's one thing that everybody agrees is messed up. Everybody is upset at healthcare. One side or the other aisle or the other, people are upset. It's also, although it's a partisan position, it's a non-legislative position. So it's not a threatening position to Democrats or Republicans to potentially throw a libertarian a vote. It's also a position that the Republicans have given up on. Their last 3 cycles, they have put in almost no effort to win this position. So I think there's an opportunity for a libertarian to come in and actually have a voice and to potentially win. I started early because, like Michelle said, it takes a lot of time to win these races. She's been a great influence actually, and seeing the amount of effort she puts forth, running really hard for 9 months, and unfortunately not quite get to what the end goal was, has given me information to choose a different path, which is to work at just as hard but for longer. So I'm in this for real. My wife is committed to this. My child is along for the ride, whether he knows it or not. Every time he sees a libertarian logo, he says, that's a Gary Johnson sign, because he was 2 years old when we were doing sine waves together. So, anyways, that's all I've got. I'm running. I love your support. I've got rack cards, flyers. I'm in this to win this, so if you have some effort to throw my direction, some energy, I'll put you to work any way that brings you joy. So thank you.
Okay, well, moving on now. First of all, I want another thank you to everybody that showed up. I remember Nicholas, our national chair, once said, "Show up, be nice, and win." So, half the battle is just showing up. So you guys being out here tonight, fantastic, and I hope to see you next Thursday. Which brings me, yes, Frank? David, Togs events next month, the 4th Thursday, and we will have Kieran Doherty. I always mispronounce your last name. My apologies.
Kieran Doherty.
What was that again?
Kieran Doherty.
Kieran Doherty.
Nobody gets it right. It's a great source of joy for me, actually.
So, you're going to be
Was that
speaking,
great song?
and what are you going to be speaking about?
I'm going to be speaking about voting, because everybody knows that the single mark plurality winner voting method that we have is no good. But there are actually people, I'm part of an organization that has done a fair bit of analysis on express themselves, so that when they do cast a vote, when you cast a vote with some of these better voting systems out there, people will actually see what you actually believe, what you actually want to happen, and they will honor that vote.
All right, perfect. And what's the organization that you're with
Oh,
now?
the organization I'm with is called Counted. Our website is counted.vote. Back in June, we were down in the 10th Congressional District. We did a straw poll, and we've been posting analyses of the results of that straw poll. showing how people actually behave under these new systems.
All right, well, perfect. So I look forward to that conversation, and I hope everybody who's in the room tonight is there for it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So, which now brings us to the main event. I am very excited to have my own Kirkland City Councilman here tonight. He's a former state legislator. He's the president of the Washington Coalition for Open Government, and he's going to be talking about transparency in government. And with no further ado, I want to introduce Toby Nixon. And actually, Toby, I have a couple of questions for you before you launch into your
Okay.
talk, if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
So,
Get my stuff situated.
So, you've run for state office a number of times.
I've run 10 times in my life and won 5 times.
And, you've won. So, with that, I'd like to know, what do you feel the value of running for a nonpartisan race is? What's your opinion of running for nonpartisan races?
Well, I think the key to winning an election is how many people you know and how many people know you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you even just run for a nonpartisan race, you get to meet a lot of people. You can also meet a lot of people by being in service clubs or being involved in the soccer league or all these other things. But by running for office, you get to meet a lot of people. If you win and serve as a city council member or a school board member or whatever, you meet 100 times as many people. And then they get to know you. They know what a good job you can do, that you can get things done. And then they tell all of their friends. And so when you then want to run for a partisan office, you have a bunch of people who are ready to endorse you and
So
contribute
then
to
the
your
label
campaign.
doesn't matter quite as much, maybe? Because you have the relationship.
You like that, but sometimes what happens based on political labels is completely out of your control.
Interesting.
Like, I would have hated to have been running in 2016 as a Republican on the same ballot with Donald Trump.
Yeah, particularly in our district.
Yeah, that's right.
So, okay, I had one more question, and then I'll let you go free here. Do you have one single piece of advice to every libertarian in this room right now? And I just put you on the spot.
Well, yeah, that would have been a nice one to think about a little bit. But the key is to be able to have crisp, inoffensive answers to people's questions.
What was that? Inoffensive?
Inoffensive, right? And I love Mary Ruart. How many of you are familiar with her writings? You know, she does a great job of coming up with crisp ways to explain libertarian principles that don't scare people. And I think that's where we really need to be able to get to, is to help people not only understand what we stand for, but how we reasonably will get there.
How to get from A
Because
to B.
most of the time they just dismiss us as radicals who want to overthrow the government. But no, there is a path to get to where we want to be. It took us 240 years to get to as bad as it is today. Hopefully it won't take that long to get back to what the founders envisioned. But we can't expect overnight change. And we have to be willing to be patient. But that also means we need to be able to start educating people about where we want to go and how to accomplish it.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Toby. I'm excited to hear what you have to say, and then we will maybe have a little Q&A.
Oh, absolutely.
So, all right.
Yeah, you gave me till 8:30, and I don't think I'm going to talk that long. So
Well, you can
that's
have as
good.
much time as you like.
So thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. I always enjoy coming to libertarian events and being able to talk frankly to people who are of like mind. A little bit about me first. I've been a libertarian, a member of the party since 1980, back when Ed Clark was running for president. And it was interesting how I got introduced to it. I actually was working on John Anderson's campaign in Florida. How many of you remember John Anderson? A couple, yes, us old guys.
Old part here.
Yeah. John was a Republican initially running against Reagan, and then switched to running as an independent. And I was working on his campaign because I didn't particularly like Ronald and was making phone calls for him, and reached a guy who I offered to send some Anderson literature to. He said he'd be happy to take my literature if I would take his. And he sent me information about Ed Clark and also a copy of Restoring the American Dream by Robert Ringer. Have any of you ever read that book? It's a great book. It's a great introductory book. And the Advocates is one of the best organizations for teaching how to talk about libertarianism. How many of you ever taken the world's smallest political quiz? Yeah, see, the Advocates for Self-Government published the world's smallest political quiz. And when I was on the board, it was the first time we did an online version of that, and that's when it really took off. Before that, it was all little, like 3x5 cards. Anyway, as Michelle mentioned, I served in the State House of Representatives from 2002 to 2007 as a Republican, and I've been served as a fire commissioner on a platform of abolishing the fire district, and I succeeded. Of course, I succeeded by having the fire district absorbed into the city of Kirkland. So, and then shortly after that, was elected to the Kirkland City Council, and I'm in my 7th year on the City Council. When I was in the legislature, I worked a lot on government accountability and transparency issues. Because of that work, was invited to join the board of the Washington Coalition for Open Government, which is a nonpartisan, nonprofit, statewide organization dedicated to protecting the people's right to know what their government is doing. And so I joined that board in 2005, and then completely unintentionally became president in 2007, and have been president ever since. So that's me. I want to talk a little bit. It hasn't happened yet. But there was uproar around the country about transparency, needing to know what the people in government were doing.